Part 41. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 405. Lord Snowhawk. Dragon Legend. Super Soldier. Cultivation of Rain and Clouds. Budo Supreme. King Yanjai. My neighbor is a banshee. Xianmu Legend. The appetite of the silver beast is indeed good. After nibbling the demon pill of the Xuanhuan Yunwei that broke out of the old monster Chen, this little silver beast nibbling a demon pill of a silver scale demon beast, then hit a full hiccup, stopped contentedly. It's just that watching this little silver beast finally got full, when Han Weiwei wanted to play with this little beast, the little beast actually crooked his head, and after blinking his eyes twice, he fell asleep directly. Sleep when you're full, how can you be like a piglet? Han Weiwei couldn't help whispering this, but she couldn't resist curiosity. She couldn't help but reach out and hug the sleeping silver beast. Haha, so soft, not hard at all. The silver scales on this silver beast are soft to the touch. Han Weiwei pinched her arm and pinched her face, very happy. But what immediately made her face red was that she found that the silver beast and the female nun were too similar, and seemed to have everything. It seems that I have to wear a vest to wear it. After the idea of genius flashed through her mind, Han Weiwei was content with the silver beast that had been sleeping for a long time. Ready in the bag of slaves. Go. Seeing that Han Weiwei controlled the silver beast did not seem unusual. After Wei Zhuo nodded, he didn't say much. He walked out of the quiet room, through the hall, and into a long, narrow corridor. An astonishing heat wave rushed out of this narrow channel, giving the impression that the channel was like a crater that kept erupting. At this Yongdao crossing, Jie reached out and inspired a reddish bead. A circle of crimson halo emanated from the bead, enveloping all three. This bead is Wei Suo's firefighting bead. After inspiring this firefighting bead, the three men walked along the Yongdao. After walking for more than 20 feet to Rio, the air in front of the Yongdao was already hot and distorted, and the four walls of the Yongdao were all shining with gold and iron. Otherwise, the heat from the inside alone will burn the inside like a hot porridge, and there will be no such perfect way to pass through. After walking more than 30 feet, Wei Suo and others stopped. I saw a karst cave in front of them. The four walls of the entire cave are obviously covered with fine gold that can withstand extremely high temperatures. In this cave with a radius of more than 30 feet, there are 5 red crystal columns standing on the ground. A plume of black oil-like flames, like a candle flame, with a straight tree on top of these 5 red crystal pillars. I saw Wei Suo looked at the thickness of these 5 thumbs. After a moment of black oily flames, his hands moved slightly, but a yellow aura appeared on his body. Later, Wei Suo nodded to Jie and Han Weiwei, and looked dignifiedly beyond the crimson halo of the fire pearl. Oh! Oi! Oi! On the yellow aura mask outside Wei Suo, the sound of hot oil pouring into a hot wok was kept continually, and the appearance of the aura mask was shaking. This aura of his aura is the Xuanhuan aura given to him by the ancestor of the Xuanhuan, and is a low-level celestial spell. It is displayed with his current cultivation, at least it has the defensive power of the inferior Dao. Judging from the situation where the power of this aura mask is constantly being depleted, the heat in this cave alone has reached the power of a spirit-level low-level fire magic weapon. Seeing such a scene, the expression on Wei Suo's face became more dignified. And behind him, Jie and Han Weiwei were obviously more nervous. Even Han Weiwei, who was not always quiet, made no sound and looked at Wei Suo obediently. I saw Wei Suo walking all the way to the front of one of the red crystal columns, and then stopped. After that, he took a deep breath and squeezed several tactics in his hands. One mouth, but a black and red brilliance spewed out from his mouth. This glory hit the straight burning black oil flame in front of him. After a long period of time, the black oil-like flame was suddenly introduced into Wei Suo's mouth along the black-red brilliance. The black-red brilliance immediately closed, as if intercepting a black oil-like flame. Immediately, Wei Suo's body shuddered, and a wave of aura rolled outside him. It seemed obvious that the real element in the body was consumed very violently, just like suppressing a wild ancient beast in the body. Probably after half a cent of incense, a puff spurted a purple flame from Wei Suo's mouth, but the tumbling aura outside him calmed down. The expression on his face was also obvious. Okay, Ji couldn't help asking when she saw such a scene. It's done. Wei Suo's figure moved, but first retreated into the red halo emanating from the fire bead, and then nodded, reaching forward, and a little black light flew from his fingertips. Go out and make a whirl in the air ahead. That's how the archaic fierce fire condensed by the archaic fierce fire. Han Weiwei was surprised to see that the black light that flew from Wei Suo's fingertips was a black flame of Ganodermal lucidum growing 1 inch long. Wei Suo nodded, but reached out and took out a piece of bronze-colored ore. Afterwards, he stretched out a hand, and a real element poured into the black Ganodermal-like flame floating in front of him. As soon as he saw this real element rush in, a black Ganodermal-like flame suddenly burst into black light, and a black flame rushed out and rolled towards the bronze ore. The bronze-colored ore melted almost instantaneously, and then it was burned into a plume of flame directly, burning completely and cleanly. So powerful, Han Weiwei looked dumbfounded. She could see that the bronze-colored ore thrown by Weizhuo was just ordinary yellow copper ore, but the ore was burned in one fell swoop, and the power of this fire power was indeed a little scary. Sure enough, it is a mid-level skill. Wei Suo stretched out his hand a little, and the black Ganodermal-like flames disappeared at his fingertips. This time, he also tried out why this technique must first try to condense the fire of the ancient fierce fire. It turned out that according to this technique, the fire of the ancient fierce fire was condensed into true black heat. Now he only condenses an archaic fierce fire flame. After condensing 16 archaic fierce fire flames according to this technique, it will be more powerful when it is displayed. And there is also a magical feature of this gate technique, that is, it can burn things that invade the body of the monk. At the same time, Huoyan Zhenren and Chen Laojia simultaneously hit a silver liquid in Xuanhuan Yunwei. Chen Laojia broke the body instantly. He died, and the real person of the fire cloud immediately used the ancient fierce fire attributed to the body's orbit, and burned the silver liquid into the body without dying. Jia, Han Weiwei, there is no limit to the use of this technique. You can also practice. And the place that can condense this ancient fierce fire, we may not be able to find it after we return to Tianqian continent. So it is still necessary to condense the ancient fierce fires here before returning to the Tianqian continent. After a little deep thought, Wei Suo looked at Jia and Han Weiwei and said, it's just this technique, I just felt it clearly, even in the case of my protection of the law, at least one part of the mind must be practiced in order to condense the ancient fierce fire, otherwise the real element in the body is not enough to suppress the fierce fire introduced into the body. And the real element is burnt. After that, the whole body will be burned to ashes. So Han Weiwei, you have to first cultivate to the point where you want to do it again. Separate the mind and focus on cultivation. Han Weiwei suddenly grimaced. Then how long will I retreat here? Wei Suo glanced at Han Weiwei and handed all the remaining 2 crystals to Han Weiwei. With this crystal, the cultivation time is not a problem. At your refining speed, it can take up to 20 days, which is enough. It's just that the gold ginseng on our hands has already been used, and only 3 golden crown flowers obtained when stinging the sea can be used to break through the split mind, and the effect may be equivalent to 2 plants of Shen Shen. In addition, your body has not been completely recovered, and it is not 100% insurance to break through the state of mind. There will be no problem. Jia glanced at Wei Suo, and suddenly embarrassed, as if afraid of Wei Suo's blame, whispered, I still left about 20 drops of gold spot ginseng liquid of. What? As soon as Jia said this, Wei Suo suddenly smiled bitterly, and some were speechless. After the mysterious young man in white robe appeared before, When Wei Sao and the old man in green robe said, although the old man said that the old man in green robe took nothing good, but in fact he was very clear, I cultivated myself so fast, after all, I still mostly rely on the old man in green robe. Golden spot ginseng fruit, gathering spirit array, but the old man from the green robe. At the beginning, they got a total of 7 golden ginseng fruits, 2 of which were taken to the treasure pavilion for the purpose of testing the medicinal properties. The effect is extraordinary, so Jiya wants to give Wei Suo all. Later, under Wei Suo's insistence, Jiya barely left one to use when breaking through the mind. This golden ginseng fruit, Wei Suo naturally thought that Jiya had run out, but unexpectedly, Jiya actually secretly left more than 20 drops. She left more than 20 drops, naturally to prepare for Han Weiwei, and a golden ginseng fruit, placed in that unique jade bottle, was only 50 drops of ginseng liquid. These 20 drops, is equivalent to half. Because this golden spot ginseng fruit was originally said by Wei Suo to give Jiya, now she secretly hid the half and left it for Han Weiwei. She was still afraid that Wei Suo would be blamed. Blame what she meant. A female cultivator like her is really good. Wei Suo knows that she will treat Han Weiwei this way, and naturally this way. For a time, Wei Suo looked at Jiya, and once again had the idea of getting a wife like this. Sister Han Weiwei had already heard Jiya's words after waking up. Why she and Wei Suo cultivated a breakthrough experience so quickly, and they already knew the value of the golden spot ginseng fruit. Hearing Jiya said this time, Han Weiwei's eyes suddenly turned red. Seeing her like this, Wei Suo couldn't help but sigh again. Although the time to leave Tianqian continent is not short, he still remembers it clearly. Sometimes Han Weiwei is a very arrogant buttocks little girl. For her sister, she is willing to do anything. If any chapter content is not displayed, please visit to read. Tip: you can search for 0.academy00sy or 00sy in Baidu to visit this site. The site address is. To facilitate reading this book next time, you can click Add Bookmark below to record this reading record, and you can directly read this chapter next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Remember that the more updates you share, the faster. Mobile phone users please visit. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 406. Chapter 406 Refining the Wonderful Tree Fragments. Even with the Thought Division Realm Cultivator, there is a shapeshift great art device like Divine Fire Arrow. Extinction. See a secret place in the Nameless Island. A young cultivator is gnashing his teeth. From the disorder of his body, the cultivator seems to have just gone through a drama. Vertex Novels, Handwriting Novels. This young cultivator is wearing a great treasure blue shapeshift great art dress at the moment, but with a small white jade print on his hand. The body emits amazing water spirit chi, which is the name of the 3 sovereigns. Sect inheritance of the god secret place White Robe Young. His body has been blasted by Wei Suo before, but at the moment his face seems to have been like 7 or 8. Master, wait for you to recover almost, let's devour an ancient giant. You can definitely make your cultivation base more successful than ever, a non-influenced artifact spirit, actually dare to count us, avenged. I want to take revenge. 2 pieces of earth fire immortal lotus, plus a Dao rank high grade shapeshift great art great treasure, 1 million downscale spiritual stones. Such a reward, not only can attract almost all special head hunting to get the bounty of cultivation base, even a lot of great sect will be suspicious, to deal with us, will my body is blown up, but also to hunt down, want to multiply my illness to my life. Only pity he never thought, my water emperor son swallowing secrets, there is such a marvelous. Can constantly scour, wash the flesh, body possession, not only can quickly fit the body, restore cultivation base, and take the flesh, will soon become Acura water spirit root naked body, water emperor holy bodies. Listening to the conversation between the cultivator and the Kylan King artifact spirit, it is clear that Wei Suo sneaked back to heavenly profound continent despite the retreat, but gave an amazing reward for the cultivator. After all, the water spirit of the cultivator Qi is very anomalous, and the characteristics are still very obvious. And this name cultivator, at the moment, apparently just met a thought division realm cultivator with a powerful shapeshift great art, and ate it. My water emperor son swallowing secrets can directly devour the water attribute monster core, the spiritual stones, the ling muo, and even the golden core of the growth water attribute of the shapeshift great arts golden core stage cultivator. It is the heaven level top rank shapeshift great art, and it is because of the speed of this culture that it is the heaven level top rank shapeshift great art. His cultivation speed is definitely not compared to me. His work shapeshift great art is simply impossible. Refining got the wonderful tree fragments, even got the wonderful tree fragments, also equivalent to only help me keep it, the SEA immortal sect that Xuanhuan old ancestor, golden core stage second the layer base, even if the retreat was successful, but only cultivation core the cultivation base of the third layer. To be on the safe side, I will go to the golden core fourth layer and take revenge. See this God's secret place young cultivator speak between, hand Kylan King water seal on, keep emitting a very thick water spirit, Yuan Qi, and his body many pores, also open, good like countless toad mouth in the constant inhalation, exhaled, and constantly sucked into a stock of transparent ripple like water spirit Yuan Qi, but also constantly gush out a cloud of turbid gas. This kind of lust shape looks very amazing. It seems that as long as there is a Kylan King shapeshift great art printed on his hand, he can use cultivation to wash the body and improve the cultivation base. The general cultivator, even if it can successfully perform the body possession, even the golden core is saved, it will be extremely difficult to restore the cultivation base, it will be difficult to restore to the original cultivation base, not to mention the life. The cultivation base is refined. But looking at the God's secret place young cultivator, it seems that after a few months, the strength can be completely restored, and the cultivation base will still be as amazing as before. Very good, after refining this place, Yuan Dao Pill, I should be able to successfully perform core formation. My work, shapeshift great art, is 2 levels higher than the old guys of Reverend Changfeng and Heaven's first section, and no one knows, I got 2 golden spotted ginseng that can boost so many divine consciousness. After forming the golden core, there were several cities around this week, and no one was my own. At most 1 month time, I will definitely succeed in core formation. At the same time, Eastern Jade Paradise, a quiet room with several shapeshift great art arrays, was only 30 years old, wearing a cultivator in a dark green shapeshift great art suit, swallowing one in his hand. Earthy oval medicine pill. The dark green shapeshift great art on this cultivator is full of serpentine rune, with a chilly face. At this moment, the eyes are full of arrogance. It is almost killed by Wei Suo and others in the transmission of shapeshift great art. Li Xuanhuan. After swallowing medicine pill in his hand, Li Xuanhuan immediately closed his eyes, True Yuan in the naked body, constantly rumbling surging sound, and fully refining the medicine pill. At this time, with the transmission of shapeshift great art's flash of intuition, Wei Suo's figure is already in the transmission of shapeshift great art in the belly of Blue Wind Mound. Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun, 2 guys, were sent to various cities, went to great treasure to acquire the flesh and blood of the monster beast, and at the same time inquired about the news. Now, in addition to a surprising amount of materials for the refining heaven mending pellet, the materials for refining the shapeshift great art great treasure are all ready, and Wei Suo himself, also in several cities around, acquired a batch of monster beast. Because of shopkeeper Mo's relationship, Wei Suo's now has nearly 300,000 lower priced spiritual stones in addition to those costs. After meeting with shopkeeper Mo, Wei Suo consciously delayed a lot of time while on the road. The reason is that because time has passed for so long, he does not dare to trust 100% of shopkeeper Mo. If someone is chasing it right away, it is very likely that shopkeeper Mo has problems, but Wei Suo has not found any on this road. The exception, shopkeeper Mo, this person, should indeed be loyal to Ji Yat and Han Weiwei, is trustworthy. Shortly after the departure of Heaven's Dome, Wei Suo was not in a hurry, and soon stopped in a secret place unmanned mountain, and then took a transparent glass from the treasure-receiving pocket into the pill bottle. This transparent glass pill bottle is filled with gray-black liquid, and the liquid is immersed in a piece of white debris. It is the god's secret place. The young man said that Wei Suo is not useful. The magic tree fragment of the secret place. This wonderful tree fragment is really what the old man said. If it is so simple, you can refining it. Forget it, he won't say it. Since this wonderful tree fragment will always exude spiritual chi, equivalent to non-stop culture, then it is as early as possible. After seeing Wei Suo squatting a little, he pulled out the plug of the pill bottle and took out the pieces of the wonderful tree that had been soaked inside. The splendid tree fragments that exude agile white light seem to be a lot softer, but the rest are not changed. After taking out the pieces of this wonderful tree, Wei Suo did not hesitate, took out a sharp blade, and made a stroke in his left palm. Immediately, blood poured out and a great treasure was drawn. Immediately, he quickly pressed the piece of the tree into the wound. This piece of wonderful tree was stuffed into the wound by his hard life. His face was immediately a slap in the face, a painful table lust. Sure enough. But at the same time, his eyes are also bright. This piece of wonderful tree gives him the feeling that it is like a very amazing medicine pill, and the potion is beginning to spread. His whole body is extremely cool in an instant. A share of spiritual chi, constantly from his palm, with the flow of his chi and blood, reaches every corner of his naked body. For a time, he felt that with each of his own breathing, his own true Yuan power, he broke through the golden core cultivation base, and the resulting more than 10,000 niches were also full of great treasure. Now Wei Suo has thoroughly realized that after condensed golden core, the number of niches generated is 13,000. The previous 15 divine seas did not disappear, but they also became 15 of those 103,000. That is to say, after forming the golden core, the cultivator naked body has changed, as if the manifestation had a total of 3,000 divine seas. The cultivation of cultivator is the non-stop giant treasure True Yuan. True Yuan in turn moisturizes the flesh, the body, True Yuan, divine consciousness, and the great treasure to a certain extent. The changed body will change again, the cultivation base will break through. At this moment, this wonderful tree fragment is smashed by his chi and blood and True Yuan, and the spiritual chi is formed. It is almost exactly the same as his usual feeling of taking spiritual chi cultivation. And the spiritual chi, which is exuded by this wonderful tree, is also very tyrannical, giving Wei Suo's feeling, as if there are two hearts in his naked body, one in the chest, and one in the left hand. A spout in the chest is chi and blood, and the one in the left hand palm is spiritual chi. No wonder the old man recognized this thing on the same day, so mad. Wei Suo raised his left hand, and the wound in the palm of his left hand had already condensed and could not see what was hidden inside. But carefully felt the amount of spiritual chi that was constantly emitted from the pieces of the tree, and Wei Suo couldn't help but take a breath. The God's secret place young man who had the inheritance of 3 sovereign sect was the only one of his own 3 sovereign sect shapeshift great art water emperor sun swallowing secrets, able to devour and refine the wonderful tree fragments, but did not expect, green-robed old man will know this partial door, but the effective refining side shapeshift great art. If he can know these things at the moment, I am afraid that I will be mad at me. Now the amount of spiritual chi emanating from this wonderful tree fragment is not as great as the crystal of primal chaos Yunwei, but the amount of spiritual chi ingested is even faster than that of Wei Suo using high-grade spiritual stones cultivation. 8 times the look. That is to say, Now Wei Suo does not do anything else, is lying down in a daze, the speed of the cultivation base is upgraded, and it is equivalent to 7 to 8 times the closed-door cultivation before. Tian Yufang is buying the monsters of the monster beast, and the quantity is very great treasure. After killing the monster beast, the unused parts can also be brought back to sell spiritual stones. What is the use of monster beast? Is it a great treasure type monster beast used to breed great treasure? At the same time, among the many cities, many low-grade cultivators also began to move to the secret place. Before looking for it, there was no use of the secret place of the monster beast flesh to some shops for the spiritual stones. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 407. Lord Snowhawk. Dragon Legend. Super Soldier. Cultivation of Rain and Clouds. Budo Supreme. King Yanjai. My neighbor is a banshee. Xianmu Legend. With the passage of time, Yunling continent talked less about Wei Suo's retreat. It was the news of Xiaoshenjia, but I didn't know why it was spread out, so that many ancestors of Yunling mainland and many loose repairs poured into Xiaoshenjia, and the number of monks active in the Sea of Extinction for a time. But it surged. In this regard, the Tianqian continent, which is separated from Yunling continent and does not know how many miles, is basically ignorant. In the northern part of Tianqian continent, there is a small city called Biling City. The city is small in size, and it is now ruled by a sect called Wanling Zone, which can only accommodate about 50,000 monks. It is not well known among the Tianqian continent, but the name of the city is in the high among the rank-level monks. It spreads widely and is very famous. The reason for this is that there is an ancient teleportation circle left in the city. This teleportation circle, but a teleportation circle at a very long distance, is connected to an ancient monument only 30,000 miles away from the Yunling mainland. There are only 3 teleportation circles of this distance in the entire Tianqian continent. It is only this teleportation circle. Only when a monk who divides the mind into the 5-fold cultivation can barely withstand the physical and gods when the circle starts. The impact of knowledge. If you want to go to another continent, the monks who divide the imagination below the 5th level generally have to pass through several teleportation circles first, and then try to venture through the wilderness of at least 200,000 or 300,000 miles outside the sky dome. There are very few monks who divide their minds into 5 levels, no matter which continent they are in. Moreover, ordinary monks, without special necessity, are unlikely to leave their familiar environment and go to a continent where they are not familiar. In addition, the cost of sending this teleportation circle once is 10,000 inferior spirit stones, so although there is this ancient teleportation circle known to many high-level monks in Snow Spirit City, this teleportation circle is rare for a year. Started several times. But on this day, a lot of ancient teleportation circle has been quiet, but it suddenly emits a pale yellow aura. The pale yellow aura formed a soaring aura of light in the ancient teleportation circle with a radius of 100 feet. In the astonished eyes of several Wanlingzong disciples responsible for guarding this array, the figure of a young man wearing a blue cassock and 2 young female practitioners appeared in a huge beam of aura. The young man in the blue cassock looks only in his 20s, his face is sallow, and the 2 female nuns who appeared with him in the teleportation circle are all very ordinary, but their bodies are extremely slim, giving a stunning feeling. I saw that the young monk and 2 female monks walked out of the teleportation circle, but they did not feel any discomfort. After asking aloud about the location of Biling City and other cities connected with other cities, they did not stay at all and entered another short-distance teleportation circle of Biling City. With the transmission of the teleportation circle, the aura disappeared. The appearance of the mysterious 1 man, 2 women, and 3 monks, but gave the Biling City a little more talk. but what the monks in the North Spirit City did not know was that the three monks, 2 men and 2 women, were one city after another, and they did not stay at all, traveling all the way south. Originally even Jindan realm, or even the fourfold and fivefold monk of Jindan realm, if you send the magic circle one by one, the body and the consciousness will be unbearable. However, when the 3 monks, 2 men and 2 women, entered each teleportation circle, and when the teleportation circle was excited, a strange ancient rune in the hands of the male brilliance would glow, and then the 3 monks seemed to have none at all. Generally affected by teleportation circle. In less than a day, the 3 monks, 2 men and 2 women, actually traversed most of the Tianqian continent, and appeared in the teleportation circle of the Qingfeng tomb outside the Lingyu city at the southernmost end of the Tianqian continent. Figure. After swiping out of the teleportation circle located in the middle of Qingfengling Mountain, the 3 monks, 2 men and 2 women, swept towards the sky dome outside Qingfengling Mountain. The 3 monks stopped when they reached the sky dome outside the Qingfeng Mausoleum. It's finally back. Looking at the sky dome in front of him, the young man in the blue shirt couldn't help saying this softly. The eyes of the 3 people were full of an inexplicable look. These 3 monks are naturally Wei Suo, Ji Ya and Han Wai Wei who have changed their minds. Go. I saw that after staying in front of the sky dome for a while, Wei Zhuo took the lead through the sky dome and then sacrificed Li Wofang directly. Although the number of monsters outside the sky dome in the southern part of the Tianqian continent is not necessarily greater than the monsters around the Dead Sea, the key is that most of the monsters around the Dead Sea are water monsters, and most of them are under the sea. Yes, so the probability of hitting higher order monsters when the sky above the wild wilderness is flying here is much higher than in the Sea of Death. In addition, the most unpredictable factor outside the sky dome is that you don't know what sample level monsters you will hit. You may fly around for a day, and you may not encounter a monster with a level 5 or higher beast, but it is also possible to fly out less than hundreds of miles, and immediately hit a monster of level 7, or even level 8. Basically, whether it is the Tianqian continent or the Yunling continent, there are also Jindan monks falling every year, but there are still a few monks killed like Yeling. Most of them still die in the treasure hunt due to some prohibitions. There was a high-level monster that fell outside the sky dome and fell. Now Wei Suo wants to see what happened to the Xiao cave house where he spent a lot of effort, so it is also very low-key to fly away from the fire, and still follow the previous route, and still go all the way. Be cautious at all times. After all, the wild wilderness outside the sky has changed greatly. This time of several years has passed. Maybe some places where there were no high-level monsters at all, there are already high-level monsters. Not necessarily. Luo headed towards Xiao Mountain, and after a safe flight of about 400 miles outside the sky dome, Wei Suo suddenly stopped Li Wofang. Don't hide, come out, Wei Suo said lightly towards the forest in front. After Wei Suo's voice came out, the flash of light flashed, and the 3 men looked a little uncertain, and some monks who were afraid of their expressions appeared in their eyes. Among the 3 monks were a middle-aged monk wearing a yellow vest, the other 2 were wearing ordinary cyan vests, and one was about 27 or 80 years old. A young man who was only 20 years old, his face was white and clean, and he looked very meticulous. Of the 3 monks, only the middle-aged monk with a square face is Zhou Tianjing's triple cultivator. The remaining 2 young monks, one is Shanghai Realm Quintet, and the other is Shanghai Realm Quartet. Have you hiding in front of me want to attack us? After seeing the figures of the 3 monks, Wei Suo calmly glanced at the 3 men and said lightly. Seniors misunderstood. As soon as Wei Suo said this, the middle-aged monk with a cold sweat immediately smiled on his forehead. The seniors are not good for us, so we went into hiding. Where can we dare to be bad for you? As long as you answer me a few questions seriously, I will not embarrass you. Wei Suo knew that the low-level monks were naturally in awe when facing the monks who were much higher than themselves. At a glance, the 3 monks asked directly, "Where are you monks?" The three of us are all doing free repairs in Lingyu City. As soon as we heard Wei Suo say this, the middle-aged monk Fang Xian didn't dare to answer with any slightness. Is the repair of Lingyu City? Wei Suo groaned slightly, said, I haven't passed Lingyu City for many years. Is Lingyu City's largest sect gate still Tianyi Gate? Nature is still a door. The surprised light flashed in the eyes of the middle-aged monk, but he did not dare to hesitate and nodded immediately. Do you know how many Jindan monks there are in Tianyimen now? Wei Suo asked quietly. Jindan monk, there should be only one Tianyimen, it should be a real person called Tianshen. Oh, Wei Suo's eyes flashed, I heard that many treasures were sold in the Jade Pavilion in Lingyu City, is it still there? Jumbo Pavilion is still there. It's just that Jia, the treasurer of the Jumbo Pavilion, has been married back to Dongjao Resort. Jia has been married back to Dongjao Resort. Wei Suo was stunned and couldn't help but looked at each other with Jia and Han Weiwei. How come I haven't heard of this? Originally, Dongjao Resort wanted to do something big and invited many monks to come to observe the ceremony, but then it was said that Jia did not want to do such a big deal later. Everything was simple, just East Yao Resort took care of it for himself. The middle-aged monk Fang Face looked at Wei Suo and explained, seniors haven't been to Lingyu City for a long time. I don't know about this. It may be because of this reason. How many Jindan monks are there in Dongjao Resort now? Wei Suo groaned slightly and then asked. There is also a Jindan monk in Dongjao Resort, which seems to be a real person named Chang Feng. The middle-aged monk glanced at Wei Suo and said, but it is said that an elder will hit Jindan in the near future. Oh? We have something to visit near Xiao Mountain, but we are not familiar with this sky dome. Do you know where Xiao Mountain is? Wei Suo asked this intently. Xiao Yashan, upon hearing Wei Suo say this, the face of the middle-aged monk immediately changed. Why, what's wrong? Wei Suo asked, immediately moving. It's not a secret. I don't know anything weird near Xiao Mountain. It is said that the monks who passed that place in recent years have not come out. It seems that there are monks who have been thinking about the situation and trying to find out, but they have not come out. In recent years there are no monks in general. Go there, the middle-aged monk asked. Asterisk. If any chapter content is not displayed, please visit to read. Tip, you can search for 0.academy00sy or 00sy in Baidu to visit this site. The site address is. To facilitate reading this book next time, you can click add bookmark below to record this reading record, and you can directly read this chapter next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Remember that the more updates you share, the faster. Mobile phone users, please visit Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 408. Chapter 408 Monster Pet Duel. Among the Wei Suo's fire furnace room, the raging red light shines out of the door, as if the entire fire furnace room is burning. Vertex novels, handwriting novels. As time went by, the raging red light suddenly disappeared. Pu. Immediately, there was a surging sound in the fire furnace room. This surging sound sounded like a sudden shape-shift great art great treasure. Among the fire furnace room, a yellow-colored shape-shift great art suit was suspended in front of Wei Suo's. 3 of the semi-finished shape-shift great art garments made of primal chaos Yunwei's material next to Wei Suo are now 2. Obviously the shape-shift great art is the one that is missing. Compared to the shape-shift great art garment refining the silver scale monster material, the shape-shift great art garment is also coated with a very moist yellowish crystal layer, the edge of each scale below the crystal layer. Engraving the beautiful rune, now even if you look carefully, some can't see the scale below the layer, but it is like a circle of mysterious patterns. The entire shape-shift great art suit looks so gorgeous and noble, and it's obviously a little different from the previous 2-piece refining, shape-shift great art, with some materials. At the moment, this shape-shift great art clothing is flowing on spirit light, but it has not been stimulated at all. It's just that the surging sound is muffled. It seems that only the shapeshift great art clothing is refined into, the shapeshift great art is connected, and the spiritual chi vibrates the surrounding air when it flows, giving a surging sound. Just the spiritual chi shock of the shapeshift great art clothing itself, this kind of surging sound sounds, indicating that the rank of the shapeshift great art clothing is definitely amazing. Wei Suo's eyes flashed at the shapeshift great art, and a true Yuan sneaked in, inspiring this shapeshift great art. I saw the outside of this shapeshift great art suit, and immediately formed a pale yellow and slightly silvery, feather-like brilliance. Pa! A surging sound, a cracking sound, only Wei Suo did not inspire any shapeshift great art great treasure, directly mystic fiend ghost claw hit the shapeshift great art. Dao rank middle grade. The kid, the material of this primal chaos Yunwei is slightly worse. The two pieces are made with the forearm primal chaos Yunwei and the ancient shapeshift great art made by primal chaos Yunwei. It should reach Dao rank high grade. Green-robed old man immediately squinted. The shapeshift great art clothing, which was controlled by Wei Suo's true Yuan, was attacked by mystic fiend ghost claw. The brilliance outside the shapeshift great art was not broken, and there was no damage at all. There is no damage to the inside of the shapeshift great art naked body, which means that the number of hits cannot be broken, and the defense of this shapeshift great art great treasure can't be broken. Dao rank middle grade, Dao rank high grade. Although my heart was also predicted, but I really saw such a result, Wei Suo's heart, but still cannot help but rise up to incredible thoughts. To know the shape ranks shapeshift great art great treasure, before Wei Suo was something you couldn't even think about. Levels like Yaling and Yin Liwa, so sex cultivator, before entering little heavenly realm, did not have a shapeshift great art great treasure above Dao rank middle grade. Ordinary sect, it is also possible that even a shapeshift great art great treasure of Dao rank is not available. After all, some rogue cultivators have become golden core stage cultivators for decades. They don't necessarily have a shadow shift great art great treasure of Dao rank. They can only rely on their own shapeshift great art and other means. But now I have actually produced the shapeshift great art great treasure of Dao rank. However, after only a few breaths, Wei Suo's mind was calmed down, and the corner of the Revelals had a sneer smile. Not to mention green-robed old man, the artifact refinement of the artifact spirit, and the cultivation base of the golden core stage. This material is the material that can be encountered, but the level 8 monster beast. Wei Suo still wants to find it now, and he has no ability to get it again. Dao rank's shapeshift great art great treasure is still extremely rare, not refining, it can be refined. N. Just then, Wei Suo suddenly turned a little and turned around. After a moment, a breeze rushed in and Han Weiwei's figure appeared at the door. You have already noticed that I am coming, and there is no surging sound. I just watched it motionless and wanted to scare me. As soon as he swept in and saw Wei Suo looking at himself, Han Weiwei was a little shocked. And her habitual action made Wei Suo a little depressed. Because this outstanding but little beauty was frightened, she always liked intercourse to pat her chest, and the result was always a slight tremor in some places. Is this the shapeshift great art dress that you made? It looks pretty good. However, Han Weiwei never realized this, and her gaze was immediately attracted by the shapeshift great art that Wei Suo had just finished refining. How do you try this shapeshift great art dress? Wei Suo reached out and put this warm shapeshift great art in front of her. Is this shapeshift great art clothing made for you? Han Weiwei unknowingly put this shapeshift great art on the clothes and found that it fits very well. Obviously it is made according to her figure. The boy is good, very conscious. When we saw Wei Suo nodding, Han Weiwei's heart was very good, and somewhere in my heart, it softened immediately. The other two shapeshift great art clothes are better, but I think you have to give good to Jia, so I will give you this refining. But when he heard the words of Wei Suo's, Han Wei suddenly turned over the roll one's eyes and wished that the person would die immediately. Right, your mind-devouring bug should be awake now. After a sneak peek at Wei Suo, Han Wei's eyes turned, but suddenly asked the sentence. What? Wei Suo immediately sniffed out a conspiracy and looked at Han Wei with some vigilance. Han Wei grinned. My Xiaoyan woke up. I don't know if she is so bad. Why do you want her to compete with your mind-devouring bug? Xiaoyan, Wei Suo looked at Han Wei with some speechlessness, but he refused and nodded. You said that you cannot make your mind-devouring bug invisible, otherwise I am afraid that Xiaoyan can't see it, and I don't have shapeshift great art to play. After Wei Suo walked into the nearby stone room dedicated to cultivating the mind-devouring bug, Han Wei saw Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug eating and drinking, lazily soaking in a basin of nurturing demon liquid. Because of the relationship of the liquid in it, this mind-devouring bug is looming. With the prime of primal chaos Yunwei, at such a close distance, you should be able to feel the breath of mind-devouring bug. But to see it clearly, there is no problem. While Wei Suo spoke, mind-devouring bug in the nurturing demon liquid jumped up immediately, and then Wei Suo took out a low-grade monster beast and removed several black carapace from it. True Yuan squeezed under pressure, the shells were squeezed into powder and sprinkled on mind-devouring bug. The already invisible mind-devouring bug, like a layer of black yarn, is looming. Come out, Xiaoyan. Let Wei Suo almost fell to the ground, and when it was previously applied to shapeshift great art, the total joy intercourse called a surging sound. When Han Wei released primal chaos Yunwei, it was also a delicate call. Sound. With a flash of silver, primal chaos Yunwei debuted. Compared with before, Wei Suo saw that the silver beast had grown taller than half a head. Although the naked body type is still not great treasure, it looks like a petite look, but its body is naturally exuded. A high-level monster beast, unique terrifying breath. Mind-devouring bug, which is not far from the secret place opposite primal chaos Yunwei, is obviously chilling. How, my Xiaoyan is okay. After a glance at his own primal chaos Yunwei, Han Wei said, Wei Suo, you can let them both start playing. Alright, Wei Suo looked at the two high-level monster beast and nodded nonsense. Xiaoyan started playing. As soon as Wei Suo nodded, Han Wei immediately smugly ordered. Chi. The actions of primal chaos Yunwei and mind-devouring bug are much faster than Han Wei's surging sound. Han Wei was almost just beginning to speak, and a silver light beam had already been shot from the mouth of primal chaos Yunwei. At the same time, mind-devouring bug was extremely flexible and swayed to the side, avoiding the attack of the silver beam. A surging sound of, almost at the same time, there was a transparent flaw on the head of primal chaos Yunwei. Mind-devouring bug's exclusive divine consciousness shock. Chi chi chi. Almost at the same time, a strip of white water blade, continuously hitting primal chaos Yunwei. Wei Suo, how can your mind-devouring bug still have this kind of shapeshift great art? This scene surprised Han Wei's great treasure. But primal chaos Yunwei, who was hit by divine consciousness, didn't even shake the naked body. This also made Wei Suo slightly shocked. Level 8 monster beast, after all, is the level 8 monster beast, and its divine consciousness is indeed unimaginable. Seeing the oncoming, powerful energy is obviously amazing white water blade, this silver little beast is also not meant to dodge at all, and there is no obvious movement. A group of silver glow, suddenly from its around the body emerged. Pa! 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 In a burst of surging sound, the white water blade crashed into the silver glow. Immediately, under the urging of the silvery beast, the silver glow source was continuously turned out and wrapped toward the mind-devouring bug. So smart! Han Wei's mouth has become O-shape. The powerful energy of the silver glow seems to be still above the silver light column. How? But at this time, What made her unbelievable was that Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug suddenly rushed from the yellow chi and disappeared from the place. Her primal chaos Yunwei is also obviously a dull, confused look. Wei Suo is also a bit stunned. His mind-devouring bug is not invisible, but directly falls into the ground like a fall. Immediately, some of the primate primal chaos Yunwei seemed to be burned to the S, and the panicked silver flashed and smashed. Today, I received an interview from Perfect Radio. I will move the things I used to live to where I live now. There is not necessarily a time code, so I may take a day off tomorrow. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 409. Chapter 409 Revenge. The heart of primal chaos Yunwei's soul was poked with a small wound and broken. Vertex novels, handwriting novels. On the ground underneath his feet, there was a small hole in the reveals, as if he had been poked with a sharp weapon from below, and poked a small hole. At this moment, primal chaos Yunwei looked at the ground below and looked terrified. It seemed that there was no shapeshift great art to sense where mind-devouring bug was. After stopping the great treasure in the air for a while, the primal chaos Yunwei landed on the ground again. But just after a moment, this primal chaos Yunwei seemed to be burned to the S, and panicked and plucked. On the other sole of the foot, there was another wound, which was slightly more serious than the wound on the sole of the other foot. This time, he did not dare to fall to the ground again and again, suspended in the air, looking for Han Weiwei for help. Wei Suo, don't fight. Han Weiwei was very depressed and called out. Although she and Primal Chaos Yunwei have unique feelings, knowing that Primal Chaos Yunwei's injury is not great treasure, but now it is obvious that her Primal Chaos Yunwei is wearing Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug without any shapeshift great art, can only be beaten of. A group of yellow chi surged and Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug came out from the ground again. What's the matter? How can your mind-devouring bug send shapeshift great art again, and it will be drilled, which is too skinny? Han Weiwei yelled again as soon as he saw Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug. Originally, she still wanted to bully Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug with her own primal chaos Yunwei. In any case, even the cub of the level 8 monster beast is definitely stronger than the level 5 and level 6 monster beast. However, her own primal chaos Yunwei was bullied by Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug, which was too depressed for her. Wow, ha ha ha. Hearing Han Weiwei, Wei Suo was very embarrassed and laughed. I said that it didn't seem to respond after the advancement. It turned out to be the ability to create a depression. Isn't that a broken land? Han Weiwei looked at Wei Suo with a sullen look. The Earth attribute monster beast will go a lot, and the soil beetles of the rank 3 will be stunned. So happy. This is not the same. Wei Suo looked at Han Weiwei proudly. From the moment my mind-devouring bug launched the divine consciousness to your primal chaos Yunwei, and it is not affected at all, this kind of ancient cross-level 8 monster beast divine consciousness is as strong as the general golden core first layer cultivator. With its divine consciousness and perceptual ability, no shapeshift great art judged my mind-devouring bug in the underground. My mind-devouring bug's depression is different from ordinary bandits. It should still be divine ability with its own scent. In this way, even the cultivator above the thought division realm 4 5th layer, or even the golden treasure cultivator of the golden core stage, should be able to get close to the location without being noticed. What about that? Isn't the cultivator standing on the ground when it is against the enemy, waiting for your mind-devouring bug to go to the bottom of the foot? Han Weiwei stunned and licked his mouth. Of course in the wild, the enemy may not be able to do it. But if you are in town, it will be different. Wei Suo's very deep he smiled, and now my mind-devouring bug's bone spike has been pierced even by primal chaos Yunwei's scales. The usual ordinary spirit rank defense shapeshift great art great treasure should be resisted. If you don't live, then a poke is a footplate. Seeing Wei Suo's ugly look, Han Weiwei is speechless. In the city of Spirit Peak City, which is not allowed to fly in the sky, if it is sneaked with this mind-devouring bug, it is really a punctuation, and even if it is a high-level cultivator, the bottom of the foot is suddenly poked 1 or 2. A blood hole, though not fatal, certainly affects shapeshift great art. Wei Suo also sighed at this time. If this is a blood hole on the sole of the foot, the first reaction is definitely the same as your primal chaos Yunwei. Jump up and see how the back is under the foot. Thing. At the time of the poke, I used my flying sword directly from the top to the next shot. In this way, he just jumped up and was snapped back by my flying sword. He estimates that he can only call a surging sound "screw your sister" at most. Screw your sister. Hearing Wei Suo, Han Wei suddenly rolled one's eyes and felt that his heels were cold. Your primal chaos Yunwei's shapeshift great art power. I see that there is almost Dao rank's powerful energy of shapeshift great art great treasure, and the strength should be at least equivalent to the cultivator above thought division realm 4th layer. Wei Suo said at the same time, you continue to let it devour monster core. When we go to 7-star city to find Eastern Jade Paradise, if its strength is improved, maybe it will be used for great treasure. Secret place. When my Xiaoyan becomes awesome, come and play with your mind-devouring bug. I don't believe that my Xiaoyan is just playing with your mind-devouring bug. I went to cultivation. Originally to show off his own primal chaos Yunwei, thinking of his own primal chaos Yunwei is sure to beat Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug, but now it has been poked twice by Wei Suo's mind-devouring bug. It is the depressed Han Wei was also a bit boring. After saying this, he left his own civilization. Seeing Han Wei's mouth and a look of disappointment, Wei Suo couldn't help but smile a little. Next, he was not in a hurry to leave the quiet room, reaching for a shot on his own treasure receiving pocket, only to see a black light flash. A high-grade treasure appeared in front of him. This high-grade treasure is a skeleton of the 4-armed primal chaos Yunwei, but compared to the previous one, the original silver and gold shins are faintly flashing a layer of green light. Inside the skeleton, it is a black brilliance that is extremely thick, and the hollow eyes are filled with black light, giving a very strange feeling. Chi. Under Wei Suo's eyes flash, I saw his mind-devouring bug suddenly inspiring a white water blade of a great treasure piece with this 4-armed scorpion. At the same time, the black brilliance of the naked body, this cockroach seems to be alive at once. The 4 arms are lifted forward, and it is a shot of 4 black beams. Pa. 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 The white water blade inspired by mind-devouring bug was all crushed by the black beams of the 4 arms. Seeing such a scene, Wei Suo's face showed a satisfactory look. Subsequently, mind-devouring bug seemed to have completed the task, and climbed to the jade pot on the side, and soaked. Wei Suo kept his hands and took out a pill bottle from the treasure receiving pocket. Under his true Yuan package, more than 10 drops of black liquid naked body flew out of the pill bottle and shot into the sly mouth. This kind of cockroaches seems to be eating like a mouthful, and the mouth is screaming and groaning. At the same time, the black light in the naked body squirts and makes a surging sound like a roaring sound. The black light in the eyes begins to become strong and weak. Wei Suo lifted his hands, his fingers flicked, and a strip of green light was constantly flowing in front of him, and the condense of green flames and green skulls continued to linger in the shape. On the body. After more than 2 hours, Wei Suo stopped shapeshift great art, and the scent of the body and the black light inside the naked body seemed to be a lot stronger. After a few moments of satisfaction, Wei Suo put away the stick. Dragon Chi is the introduction, Heavenly Dragon 10,000 orifices, the ancient stars, tempered shapeshift great art body. After that, Wei Suo's naked body was suspended again, posing a dragon shape, and began to cultivate the Heavenly Dragon star body tempering technique. After one day, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun, the pair of great treasure brains, returned to Dongfu. Then Wei Suo made another door, took back the things that were fixed 2 days ago, and then gave the ground fire furnace room to Zhen Chongming, and he continued to refine the heaven mending pellet. In the days that followed, Wei Suo gave birth to Zhu Xiaochun, the task intercourse of immortal slaying vine, which had grown up in the valley, and he himself was dedicated to the Black Bone Dark Lord every day, cultivating the immortal slaying behind the mountain vine, and the culture heavenly dragon star body tempering technique. After more than 30 days, Wei Suo has reached the number of immortal slaying vine on the hillside outside the exit of Dongfu Mountain. In addition to the short period of more than 10 strains, the remaining 20 strains of immortal slaying vine have been cultivated to more than 100 feet in length, with enough monster beast to be nourished daily. The growth of immortal slaying vine in the front valley is also very amazing. Basically, under the lust condition of green crystal stone, an immortal slaying vine can grow at least 5 or 6 feet a night, and does not need 3 green crystal stones. They are all buried under one plant, and a green crystal stone is enough. Under the direction of Wei Suo's, Zhu Xiaochun focused on cultivating 5 immortal slaying vine. Because Wei Suo considered it for himself, the current power of immortal slaying vine, at least 4 to 5, can pose a strong great treasure threat to the golden core stage cultivator. 5 immortal slaying vines were entangled. As long as the golden core cultivator couldn't get rid of it and was pulled down, the rest of the immortal slaying vine rolled over, and there were a few pieces of Chaya-Shift's shapeshift great art great treasure on hand. It is impossible to withstand it. Now the length of the 5 immortal slaying vines has exceeded 420 feet, and they have grown from the top of the hill to the back. Almost even the sky above the mountain can be protected. On this day, in Wei Suo's Dongfu, there was a faint roaring surging sound. This surging sound was very terrifying, macro great treasure, and it seemed that a demon king finally succeeded in getting out of the ban. But after a while, the surging sound disappeared. After about half an hour, great treasures, Wei Suo, Jia and Han Weiwei, and Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun were wrapped in the Blue Emperor bottle gourd inspired by the spiritual qi, which plucked the night mountain. Subsequently, Wei Suo inspired Qi Fire Boat to fly towards the direction of Spirit Peak City. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 410. Lord Snowhawk. Dragon Legend. Super Soldier. Cultivation of Rain and Clouds. Budo Supreme. King Yanjai. My neighbor is a banshee. Zion Mu Legend. Boss Wei, where have you been in the past few years? You haven't been killed by the people in Dongjao Resort. Boss Wei, who else is this? Does it seem that the relationship with you is unusual? Is it also your relationship? After Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming stayed in disbelief for a while, they both wanted to squeeze Wei Suo to see if Wei Suo really looked like it. Although the two people are not very clever, their vision seems to be no problem at all. My things will tell you later, please tell me first, how could this be like this? Wei Suo looked at the two people in a speechless manner, and your cultivation behavior, how could it have been breakthrough? It's time for a split mind. This. Zhen Chongming opened his mouth and pushed Zhu Xiaochun with his arm again. Or tell the boss in detail. Okay, Zhu Xiaochun scratched his head and grinned before he started talking. 3 years ago, when you went out, there was no news. Our spirit stones were all used up, because there are extinct vines outside. We didn't dare to go out, we were going to dig a tunnel from the back. But the tunnel hadn't been digged yet, but the 2 extinct vines were deep in from the entrance of the cave house that day. Fortunately, it was not long enough, otherwise the 2 of us were taken out. Of course, when such a thing happens, we are of course afraid of death. Boss, you won't come back, and we don't know how many days the extinct vine will grow so fast, so of course we are desperately dug for 2 days, and finally dug out a passage, and ran out from behind. After running out, we still couldn't help but ran to the top of the mountain to see what was going on. How could the fairy vine grow so fast? I don't know, I was taken aback. We saw that the elder vine you planted is growing close to the top of the mountain. And there are at least 700 or 800 stars around the valley. The body of Muche. Later, we thought about it and thought it must be that this small night mountain was surrounded by this kind of star claws. It must have been that some star claws ran into the valley and were killed by this extinct vine. Later, it angered the star claws here, which led to the siege of so many star claws. But looking at the end of these star claws, it is certainly not the opponent of these extinction vines. Even if the whole army is destroyed, it will die 7 or 788. The immortal must have got so much nutrients from the star crow, so it grew so fast. You weren't here, the elder vine grows like this again. We were absolutely afraid to live here. But when I was about to leave, I was so clever. Think about these celestial gangsters. Mid-level monsters. As long as Dioxyanteng digests flesh and blood, there are many useful things on the star eye claws, including Yaden. These are all at least more than 100 inferior spirit stones, so after thinking about it, we are still reluctant to use these star claws. Later, we used the vines in the mountain and attached a few hooks at one end, and put them from above, slowly hooking the body of the star claws from below. You can also hook 2 or 30 heads. It's just that you can't hook the stellar claws farther away from the mountain wall. In the end, we hooked more than 300 stellar claws. Then you took out the corpses of the star claws. Han Weiwei rolled her eyes when she heard Zhu Xiaochun still had a clever move to remember the monsters, but the last two people actually hooking the body of more than 300 celebrities with this kind of earth method was also a little dumbfounded again. Zhu Xiaochun nodded and said, "Those monsters we sold a total of 36,000 inferior spirit stones. We feel that the remaining monsters and corpses are too bad to take. Something like a long fishing rod, hooked the body of more than 300 star claws anyway. This time, when we went to sell the 300 heads, we took part in an auction. As a result, we saw a magic weapon with a green spirit wood sword at the auction. This is it," Zhu Xiaochun said like a baby in his arms. He took out a 3-foot-long green wooden sword and handed it to Wei Suo. This little sword is only a half-soul level attack weapon, but the people at the auction said that this little sword can also stimulate the Yumu aura. I remember that the elder brother's green emperor gourd, can it not stimulate the Yumu aura? If we had this thing, wouldn't it be easier for us to get in and out of the valley to get the bodies of those monsters? So Zhen Chongming and I photographed this instrument. Later, when we tried it, it was just right. We can let one people come in and go out. Oh, Wei Suo Zhenyuan always saw, on the blue wooden sword with no patterns in his hand, while the blue light was blooming, he naturally radiated a wave of Yumu aura, which almost covered Wei Suo completely. There is a little more inside. Seeing such a scene, Wei Suo couldn't help but shook his head, lamenting that this pair of guys are really stupid and stupid. You have to know that the old man in the green robe said very clearly before, because the magic weapon of the Oki Aura class is not powerful against the enemy itself, so this kind of magic weapon itself is rarely refined. This kind of magic weapon that can inspire a group of Oki Aura now, it is very rare, and one of the dozens of cities may not be able to find one. Unexpectedly, these two guys actually bought one of these instruments in an auction. With this green spirit wood sword, we sold all the remaining stellar claws inside. Later, when we collected the remaining stellar claws, we found out that the immortal vines were caught in those 10 days. There are 10 other monsters. We thought that if this extinct vine grows a little longer, wouldn't it be possible to get more monsters passing by? So we later went to buy the flesh and blood of monsters. Anyway, as long as devastating vines devour the blood and flesh of monsters, they don't need Neten or the like. Regardless of the grade of monsters, the price of blood and flesh for monsters is also very cheap. It grows longer, but it didn't seem to grow long a year ago. It seems that it can only grow up to 300 or 400 feet long. There are still a lot of monsters passing by outside the Sky Dome. When luck is a little bit, these 10 fairy vines can also roll down a dozen monsters in 10 days. When you are lucky, when you encounter a group of monsters, the harvest will be it's very big. In addition to the Stark Law, the most powerful one is that there are more than 300 heads of low-level stone armor fangs passing by, which makes us a lot of money. Anyway, we will be here later, just as long as you pick up and sell the monsters rolled down by the immortal vine, the spirit stone for cultivation is enough. Anyway, we only need to manage cultivation. Han Wei heard, his eyes rolled straight. At that time, Wei Suo arranged these extinct vines just for the safety of the Dong mansion. Where did he expect to be such a tool for earning spirit stones? Now listening to Zhu Xiaokun's words, this place is like a field of spirits that can produce spirit stones. But even if you have enough spiritual stones to practice, it is logically impossible to break through to divide the mind into practice so quickly. Are there any restrictions you have set here? Wei Suo also heard one. He was stunned for a moment, but he still didn't understand Zhu Xiaokun's words here. After all, he knew that Zhou Tianjing's triple breakthrough to quartet, and Zhou Tianjing's quadruple breakthrough to quintet would take a long time. Ji Ya and Han Wei are now divided into different ways of cultivation, mainly relying on the spiritual array and crystal princess of Haixian City to practice at a normal speed. The two people Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming had only just arrived in Zhoutian. The practice of the realm is that, in 3 years, even if you practice hard all day and night, it is impossible for you to break through to the participatory realm. That's because there are monks besides monsters and beasts here, Zhu Xiaochun explained. It happened to happen over the past 3 years, and there are not many monks who have been rolled down by the extinct vines. We also got a lot of good from them. Something. Once I didn't know that some disciples who didn't know what Zongmen passed by. Anyway, several people were rolled down by the immortal vine, and all of them had a kind of elixir like crystal beads. The medicine aura is enough. We tried to refine one, and found that one is equal to the amount of aura of many top-grade spirit stones, and the refining speed is very fast. Crystal bead-like panacea. Wei Suo froze for a moment. Ji Ya's eyes flashed, and she immediately asked, "Do you have any remaining medicine?" "No, all of them are used by our cultivation." Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming glanced at each other, and both scratched their heads embarrassedly. "Is that immortality medicine only half the size of a dove's egg?" Ji Ya gestured towards the two. "Yes. It's only so big." Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming both nodded affirmatively. "Sister, do you know what this medicine is?" Han Wei couldn't help but turn to look at Ji Ya and asked. Tianjing Emperor Dan. Ji Ya smiled bitterly. The monks who were rolled down should not be surprised. They should be the elite disciples of Yu Tianzong. Yu Tianzong's elite disciples, Han Wei and Wei Suo, were both startled when they heard Ji Ya say this. Yu Tianzong is famous in the Tianxian continent, and like the Xianfeng Gate, it is the top 10 large ancestor in the Tianxian continent. The size and strength of this kind of sect is more than the corpse sect. Tianjing Emperor Pill is a kind of emperor crystal made from Yuxianzong's unique emperor gum and top-grade spirit stone. This immortal medicine can greatly speed up the cultivation speed, but the raw material emperor gel very rare. It was only sent to the elite disciples in Zongmen as a Zongmen reward. Ji Ya looked at Wei Suo and said, "Fortunately, these disciples of Yu Tianzong were not accompanied by a great teacher, otherwise, even the immortal vine may not be able to stop it. Maybe your cave house will be turned upside down." Actually, there is a method of refining this kind of medicine. No wonder it can be included in the super big section. Wei Suo frowned. Yu Tianzong sect, where several elite disciples fell, but no one actually come and track down. Later, I thought there were strange things near Xiao Mountain, and there were quite a few monks who came to investigate. But basically they were all rolled down by the extinct vines, and there are several powerful monks who should be divided into 3 or 4 layers. From them, I got some high-level elixir that can be used for cultivation, otherwise cultivation will not be so fast. The layout in this small night mountain was also obtained from some monks who were rolled down later, Zhu Xiaochun said embarrassedly. As for whether there are people in Yutian zone, we don't know. Anyway, there seems to be no monks coming in the last 6 months. The number of disciples of Yutian zone is very terrifying. This kind of large sect gate sends many disciples every year. It is normal to explore and search for treasure in the wilderness outside the Sky Dome. It may not cause the sect gate's attention. Jia looked at Weizhuo and nodded. If any chapter content is not displayed, please visit to read. Tip: you can search for 0.academy00sy or 00sy in Baidu to visit this site. The site address is. To facilitate reading this book next time, you can click Add Bookmark below to record this reading record, and you can directly read this chapter next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Remember that the more updates you share, the faster. Mobile phone users, please visit. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 411. Lord Snowhawk. Dragon Legend. Super Soldier. Cultivation of Rain and Clouds. Budo Supreme. King Yanjai. My neighbor is a banshee. Xianmu Legend. How many restrictions do you put in this? Wei Suo nodded and continued to ask. Just one, Zhu Xiaochun said. There is a set of unknown flags that disturb our consciousness, which we arranged in the valley. By then, even if a powerful monk passes by, it may not be possible to find that there is an extinct vine below. As for the dense fog outside, we put 2 fog muscle beads in the lake outside, which was also obtained from a monk who was rolled down by the extinct vine. Converted into dense fog. It seems that you really got a lot of good things. Han Weiwei glanced at the 2 people. What happened to the wood and mushrooms outside this passage, and how can you give off the Yumu aura? Oh, that's Ojiji, which can be used to practice some wood-based exercises. We spent a lot of effort to buy it. The main thing is that when we came here, the immortal would suddenly get involved. It's pretty easy to use. Han Weiwei praised the 2 of them, but suddenly remembered something like that, and stared at the 2 fiercely. Yes. Since you are inside, why did Weizhuo just call it so loud? Don't you guys come out squeaky? Ah. Boss Wei, did you just call us outside? Oh, that's where we live. Too deep to hear. Too deep? Han Weiwei glanced at Zhu Xiaochun suspiciously. Yeah, I'll know when I take you to see it later. Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming both shot their chests loudly, and they promised that they didn't lie. Then let's go and see where you live first, Han Weiwei said enthusiastically. Then look at how many good things you got. Is your current residence near the exit at the back? Wei Suo's eyes flashed. He didn't know what idea he was playing, and he asked. The quiet room we are practicing with is indeed not far from the exit of the tunnel we dug out. It's just. Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming glanced at each other, and at Wei Suo and Ji Yat and Han Weiwei, a pair hesitant to speak. Just what? Han Weiwei waved her very impatient little hand. There is a fart, let's talk quickly. Is there anything else you can't let us see? That's not true. It's just that we have something to say to the boss. Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun supported Weivue for a while, or Zhen Chongming summed up the courage and pushed Zhu Xiaochun, or you and your brother said right. What's the matter? Han Weiwei looked at the 2 people with a difficult delivery, and couldn't help but feel a little depressed. Wei Suo glanced at the 2 and nodded. He said, straight to say. This is the case. After Zhu Xiaochun hesitated for a while, he looked out and said, Boss, the panacea you made us refining has been eaten by us all. Wei Suo suddenly breathed a sigh of relief, but he only allowed Zhen Chongming to refine a panacea, and this panacea is Buletin Tiandan. Boss, you deceived us from the beginning, right? You made Zhen Chongming's refined panacea, not a kind of monster, and our monks would kill the panacea immediately after eating it. Immortal medicine, right? Zhu Xiaochun looked at Wei Suo, who took a breath of air, and then let out again and generally said. You're right. Wei Suo and Ji Ya and Han Wei glanced at each other, and their brows frowned slightly, and nodded unabashedly. This kind of panacea is indeed a panacea that can open up Shanghai. But how do you think of taking this panacea? It was Zhen Chongming that he had eaten the wrong thing. Zhu Xiaochun nodded to Zhen Chongming next to him. Once we got some green borers made from the water demon beast Netten from a monk who was rolled down by the extinct vine. Dans. He accidentally took the wrong one when he was practicing, and took the pill you made him refine as green moth, and then he found that it was wrong. Even if I take the elixir, I can eat it wrong. Hearing Zhu Xiaochun said, Wei Suo and Ji Ya almost fell down. Even the cultivation of immortality medicine can be eaten wrong, and this kind of thing may only be done by this simple pair of brains. Don't you tell other monks this kind of immortality. After rolling his eyes, Wei Suo immediately looked at the two men with a serious expression and asked this question. Of course, we won't tell others. You think we are stupid? Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming shook their heads immediately. If this panacea is so powerful, if someone knows it, we must copy all of it here. We must not. I want to stay here in peace. Aren't you stupid? Han Wei suddenly rolled his eyes when he heard the two say this. Weso nodded and glanced at the two. What do you mean now? Boss, this kind of panacea is equivalent to improving the level of exercises. Zhu Xiaochun straightened his neck and said, but this panacea is only known to you, and many materials are prepared by you. Otherwise, you can give us this kind of elixir. Oh, do you guys want to threaten us? Han Wei reacted suddenly, screaming at the two with their fingers pointed out. This can't be said like this, Zhu Xiaochun said a little embarrassedly, but this immortality is indeed very useful, and it's not difficult to refine it. Even Zhen Chongming can refine it. Isn't he not agreeing to give you this kind of panacea, so you wouldn't take us to see where you live, or even deal with us? Zhu Xiaochun was interrupted by Han Wei before he finished. This. Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming didn't speak much at all. Now they are robbed by Han Wei in this way. The two of them didn't know how to say it for a while. After looking at them for a while, the two saw nothing. Zhu Xiaochun's two thick eyebrows shook, and his heart was horizontal. The boss is always our boss. Of course we dare not threaten, but it is wrong for the boss to lie to us. It is wrong to not give us this kind of good medicine. No matter what the threat is, now you are also divided into thinking about the situation, and we are also divided into two thinking about the situation. 3-2. We have spirit-level magic weapons in our bodies. Finally, we have a bit of weight. Spiritual magic weapon. Han Wei couldn't help rolling his eyes. Yeah. Look, this thing of mine is a magic weapon of mid-level spirit level. He also has a magic weapon of mid-level spirit level. If you really turn your face up and fight, you may not be able to beat us. Zhen Chongming reached out his hand and brought out a magic weapon in the shape of a purple gold carp-shaped flying blade. Show me. Han Wei glanced at Zhen Chongming silently. Okay. Zhen Chongming nodded and wanted to hand this magic weapon to Han Wei, but suddenly the reaction came back, and immediately shook his hand and shook his head violently. No, just in case you took my magic weapon to deal with it, what should we do? If it weren't for seeing Wei Suo's face, I would beat you up. Han Wei couldn't help laughing and took out a golden magic weapon on her hand and threw it to Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun. Then you look at Wei Suo's. What level of magic is this? This. Just took a look and Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun's eyes bulged. Obviously, compared with this golden magic weapon, the aura on the magic weapon that Zhen Chongming took out was suppressed, and just looking at it with the naked eye, both of them obviously didn't know how different the grade was. Is this a magic weapon for Dao? Zhu Xiaochun grunted and swallowed. Dao Ti top grade. Han Wei rolled his eyes and said. Dao Ti top grade. Zhen Chongming gasped. Then you are not afraid that we took this thing against you? There are still a lot of them in him like this. Han Wei pulled Wei Suo angrily. I'm too lazy to tell them. You let them see your repairs. Hearing Han Weiwei's words, Wei Suo smiled slightly and said nothing, but a purple aura suddenly appeared in his body, and immediately outside him, he condensed into the shape of blossoming lotus petals. Aura is transformed. Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun seemed to see a ghost, and screamed in dumbfounded. Although the lotus petals formed by Wei Suo's reflexes do not look good, the two people, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun, have seen pigs walking even if they haven't eaten pork. The monk's logo knows that if he does not form a golden pill, the aura in the flesh will not be sufficient to this extent. Boss, are you already a Jindan monk? Wouldn't you have cheated us with what you did? Hearing Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun's words, Wei Suo was also a little speechless, directly consciously rushed towards the two overwhelmed. What? I saw that the two people's bodies seemed to sink suddenly, unable to move at all, and immediately turned pale. Boss, you are really a Jindan monk. Han Weiwei pouted, and said nothing. We don't threaten the boss. The two immediately called out, Boss, what you say in the future is what you want. Go in the water, go in the fire. Boss, but can you give us another dozen or so pills of this elixir? If there are another 10 or so, our exercises will almost be able to improve one level. Okay, Wei Suo couldn't help crying when he met these two living treasures. After looking at the two, Wei Suo said, at first, I was not strong enough. I was afraid that Dan Fangguan would go out and be discovered we have such a panacea, which will cause a big disaster. Now that you all already know the use of this panacea, there is nothing to hide. You and Jia and Han Weiwei both need such a panacea. Chongming, you can help refine this immortal medicine, and the replenishment of the replenishing heavenly immortal will come out, then you will be divided into refining and refining. If any chapter content is not displayed, please visit to read. Tip: you can search for 0.academy00sy or 00sy in Baidu to visit this site. The site address is. To facilitate reading this book next time, you can click Add Bookmark below to record this reading record, and you can directly read this chapter next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Remember that the more updates you share, the faster. Mobile phone users, please visit Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziyi. Chapter 412. Lord Snowhawk. Dragon Legend. Super Soldier. Cultivation of Rain and Clouds. Budo Supreme. King Yanjai. My neighbor is a banshee. Xianmu Legend. Really, when we heard Wei Suo say this, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun were both unbelievable expressions. Boss, wouldn't you deceive us? Talking to such two guys, of course, can only go straight. After glancing at the two, Wei Suo said, I said that, of course, it will not lie to you. However, this supplement to the Tiandan is not as magical as you think, it can only improve the practice to the lowest level. The level of the order. The common practice is promoted to the lower level of the practice. At most, it is only the true strength of the real higher order. It is not like the real higher order. It has other mysteries. If you want to use this panacea, you still have to find a way to change the door to real high-level exercises. You just choose. The lower level of the heaven level? The lower level of the heaven level is enough. It is not the super large sect, there is no celestial power at all. Even the super large sect, only the elite disciples of the elite disciples can get the true biography of those heaven level exercises. In such a situation, the heads of Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun did not turn at all slowly. They both grinned and nodded with great joy. We will use this medicine, it's better to improve the quality of the exercises. Since that is the case, then you will take us to see your residence and another exit of this cave house. Now Weizhuo nodded. With these arrangements and the arrangement of you, the cave house is already a small place. Scale, we must use this as a base. In order to prevent any monks from entering through that exit, I still have to make some arrangements at another exit. Come on, boss, we will show you the way. We have a lot of quiet rooms in it. You are all enough to practice inside. Zhu Xiaochun turned around immediately, looking like he was leading the way, but suddenly, as if remembering something, she turned around and looked at Jia suspiciously. Jia? Boss, how is her name the same as the name of the first beauty in Lingyu City? Ye Zhen Chongming also slapped his head, only to react. Han Weiwei looked at them contemptuously. What's the same? She is my sister Jia, didn't you hear me calling her sister just now? Ah. But hasn't Jia married the young master of Danjiao Resort? How could you be with you? Zhu Xiaochun suddenly looked dumbfounded, admiring the dying expression. Boss, you shouldn't be. Did you dig the corner of that guy? What is digging the corner? Danjiao Resort is false news. My sister did not marry Danjiao Resort. Danjiao Resort to do so, it is too much. I will make them look good. Han Weiwei immediately snorted angrily. No, the resort of Danjiao will do this. Not afraid of being exposed and losing face. No boss, isn't that the first beauty of Lingyu City followed you? You are too powerful. Boss, where have you been in the past few years? How could you become a Jindan monk? What, did you go to Yunling mainland? In this way, I talked to these two simple-minded guys. After walking for a while, Wei Suo and others arrived at the two guys' current residences. These are really two of you. At the sight of the sight, not to mention Han Weiwei, even Wei Suo and Jia were completely stunned. What appeared in front of them was actually a cave in the belly of the mountain. This cave was obviously formed naturally, with a radius of 600 or 700 feet, and a height of 60 or 70 feet. They should have been dug by Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun. Just dug here. The ground in this big cave is leveled, and there are many flowers and trees planted to make it look like a garden. The most important thing is that there is actually a courtyard in this front and back courtyard. The courtyard is still a brick, wood, and stone structure, with carved beams and painted columns. It is very exquisite. How is it, boss? It's not bad. Seeing Wei Suo and others stunned, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun said very proudly. How did you make it out? Wei Suo, Jia, and Han Weiwei followed the two into this extensive residence, and they felt a little unbelievable. There was not only a quiet room, but a warehouse. And the furnishings inside are also readily available. This is my idea. Zhen Chongming grinned and said, once we found a room from a treasure trove of a monk who was rolled down by the extinct vine. It also looks ordinary. The house is the same, but the overall brick and wood fit is very good. It can be stored in the Nabao. It is sure that overnight stay in the wild will not have to wind and sleep, as long as the house is released. So later we went to sell here. When I received the monsters, I asked a shop to order such a courtyard. Boss, you look closely. These courtyards are all built up from one room to another. You can use a middle-level Nabao capsule. They were taken away from each room. However, a middle-level Nabao capsule can only be collected in one room, but we have brought this courtyard back and forth many times before we brought it all back. Wei Suo and Jia and Han Weiwei were speechless again. Such a genius idea, only these two guys can figure it out. Anyway, even if Wei Suo, who is very pursuing enjoyment, it is estimated that he would not spend so much effort to create such a courtyard. With such a strong effort, it is better to spend more time on cultivation. But even this is the case, these two guys have been divided into two aspects of the cultivation. People are more angry than people, and if some monks who have been working hard for many years and have not yet broken through the division of thoughts, seeing these two guys and such a place, it is estimated that they will be so depressed that they will faint. You sell so many monsters, so many times, haven't you been stared at by other monks? After shaking his head silently, Wei Suo couldn't help watching the two of them asking this question. After staring for 1 or 2 times, I followed up the inside of Xiao Mountain, but was killed by the extinct vine. Later we were careful, We didn't shoot monsters in one place, Zhen Chongming said cheerfully. However, on 2 occasions later, we deliberately brought 2 monks who wanted to kill and go over to Xiao Mountain. From the 2 monks who wanted to kill and overtake, we also got more than 10,000 inferior spirit stones. Hearing Zhen Chongming saying this, Wei Suo was completely speechless. Fortunately, this little night mountain is close to Lingyu City, and there are no top schools around Lingyu City. There is nothing special around this sky dome, otherwise, it is a strange thing that Xiao Mountain does not attract the attention of the big gate here with the practice of these 2 simple monks. It may be because the 2 were scared by the extinct vines at that time and dug a bit in a panic. This place should be under the bottom of the mountain. The sound outside is not easy to hear. Then there is another exit of this cave house. After seeing Wei Suo slightly turn around, after looking at this place clearly, he immediately looked at Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun and asked. It's not far from here. Boss, we'll take you to see if you know it. Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun immediately led the way very diligently. As soon as the 2 stepped out of the exit, Wei Suo was completely speechless again. The exit passage is just behind this residence. And this channel is straight out, there is no fork in the road. Outside the passage, there is a hillside, and the location should be right on the back of the valley where Xuanhuan cultivated the extinct vine. This hillside is relatively dark, but the key is that this hillside is flat and has no layout at all. If a monk happened to find this passage, he would be able to enter it smoothly, and the 2's residences would be found at once. Seeing such a situation, Wei Suo could only sigh once again that the 2 guys had good luck, but they were not secretly followed up. There is nothing to say about these 2 guys. After a slight look at the surrounding scenery, Wei Suo stood still on a flat ground not far from the hole. First, a pit was dug in this flat ground, and a monster was taken out of the Nabeo capsule that was specially equipped with the body of the monster beast, and after being thrown into the pit, Wei Suo then took the treasure from the Nabeo capsule. UNU box was also taken out. Boss, are you going to plant Mirage after this? Seeing Wei Suo take out a small strain of immortal vine that has always been used as a bottom, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun both reacted. Nonsense, if there is no protection behind this, what should I do if there is a strong opponent, and I will attack directly from behind? Han Wei glanced at each other. But it is also planted behind this, we will be very troublesome going in and out. Zhen Chongming gripped his scalp, and said with some worry, at that time, the extinct vine on this side also grows as big as that. If it does, it will cover the whole mountain, and if there is no magic weapon that can arouse the truth of Omuki, the people inside can't dig a hole. It doesn't matter, I will naturally have a way so that you don't need to worry about this. After Wei Suo planted this plant, he suddenly blinked and nodded at Ji Ya and Han Wei. Go, let's go to the valley ahead to see. Now go to the valley in front. Wei Suo, what do you want to do? After hearing Wei Suo's words, both Ji Ya and Han Wei didn't understand. I suddenly thought of this. Wei Suo didn't say much, spreading his hands flat and put them in front of Ji Ya and Han Wei. Wei Suo, you want to try? Ji Ya and Han Wei's brows jumped sharply. If any chapter content is not displayed, please visit to read. Tip: you can search for 0.academy00sy or 00sy in Baidu to visit this site. The site address is. To facilitate reading this book next time, you can click add bookmark below to record this reading record, and you can directly read this chapter next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Remember that the more updates you share, the faster. Mobile phone users, please visit. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Zy. Chapter 413. Lord Snowhawk. Dragon Legend. Super Soldier. Cultivation of Rain and Clouds. Budo Supreme. King Yanjai. My neighbor is a banshee. Xianmu legend. Wei Suo held in his hand the three strange stones that could make the elixir of unknown green spar continue to grow when it decays. Now he took out these three green spars. Obviously, he wanted to see if using these three green spars could make those extinct vines continue to grow. After all, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun have already made it very clear before that the extinct vine in the valley has stopped growing 6 months ago, and it should only grow so long. For Weizhuo, the length of the extinct vine is equivalent to the magic weapon's attack distance, of course, the longer the better. Even if the length is not long, if it can make the immortal vine more sturdy, it is equivalent to enhancing the magic weapon's power. It's just that this unknown green spar can allow the elixir to continue to grow and increase its power. It can be used on the extinction vine. Is it useful? Will we lose the strange power of this green spar? Try again. Go. Seeing that both Jia and Han Weiwei wanted to understand what they were going to do, Wei Suo didn't say much, inspiring the Xuanhuan gourd. Originally, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun didn't want to understand what Wei Suo was going to do, but when they saw Wei Suo and Jia and Han Weiwei turned and flew out, the two guys immediately followed without a word. After a while, a group of people appeared in the valley of the extinct vines that grew a little over 30 plants at a glance. After a little inspection, we saw that Weizhuo came to the most extinct vine plant, and then dug out the soil at the bottom of this vine plant, and put the 3 green crystals in his hand against this plant. The extinct vine was put down. The soft green light emitted from the 3 green crystals covered a few feet of the circle, and dyed the part of the celestial vine close to the soil slightly greenish. After putting down the 3 green spars, Wei Suo took a shot on a Nabeo in his body, but took another corpse of a monster. Anyway, monsters of all ranks are useful for heartworms, so on the way to Liwo Island and from Liwo Island, and on the way back to Tianqian continent, Wei Suo also took a lot of Suanxia ghost claws along the way. The monsters he encountered are now indispensable for the monsters in the treasure chest. After taking out the body of a monster, he stretched out his hand, but he threw the body of the monster directly diagonally upward. What made Han Weiwei and Jia a little horrified was that the body of this monster was thrown out of the scope of the blue wood gourds at Tsukiora. The surroundings were originally immobile immortal vines, but it seemed like a sleeping python. At first, I smelled a smell and woke up in general. The terrifying vines around it were all horrible, and all of them swam up and rolled towards the body of the monster. However, because of the nearest distance to this immortel, the other immortel was not rolled over, but this immortel had already rolled the monster extremely tightly, and it was not exposed at all. Outside. Click and click. After the crackling bones that made the teeth sore, the strain was very flexible, and the tightly wounded extinct vine quickly loosened. Poof, strangled like a rag, the seemingly dry monster beast fell to the ground. Without a slight pause, Wei Suo took out the body of a monster again and threw it up with force. One by one, after losing nearly 100 dead bodies of various monsters in a row, Wei Suo stopped after being eaten by the plant of this immortal vine. After stopping, Wei Suo groaned slightly, but took another set of blue flags. This set of cyan flags seems to be composed of at least more than 100 cyan flags full of spirits. On each side of the cyan flag is a strange rune covered with the veins of rain clouds and leaves. Wei Saw, what is this thing? Han Weiwei suddenly asked this question when he saw Weizhuo bringing out so many cyan flags. This is the complete set of flags for the mountain blessing array. After Wei Suo answered, a stream of real money kept pouring into the blue flag in his hand. I saw these cyan flags immediately turned into a stream of cyan streamers, automatically scattered, fell down, and once fell to the ground. Whether it is mountain rocks or mud, it seems to be directly hidden, and it has penetrated into the ground, very general strange. In the end, only a cyan flag remained in Weizhuo's hands. This flag looked slightly larger than the other 100 flags. After Zhenyuan was injected into it, the cyan brilliance that appeared on the cyan flag was condensed into the shape of a mountain. Wei Suo just waved this small flag, and a hint of pale blue aura came out of the ground. These light blue auras are all wood-based, which is very suitable for the growth of various flowers and spirit trees. Boss, if you come like this, isn't this extinct vine equivalent to failure? What made Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun dumbfounded was that it was so clear that the surrounding forests seemed to be vivid and moisturized with a lot of Yumu aura, but it seemed to cover a radius of dozens of miles. It doesn't matter, this flag is equivalent to a burst of eyes. You can use this flag to control this burst. You are waiting for me for a while. After Wei Suo said this, he flew towards the sky. Go up. After flying in a circle along the mountain attached to this plant, Wei Zhuo found that the length of these plants at the moment was about 350 feet. The extinct vine that had just devoured nearly 100 monsters now does not seem to have any obvious changes in appearance at all, and the length and thickness are the same as the other extinct vines. After a little deep meditation, Wei Suo fell again and fell to Jia and Han Wei. How is it? Jia asked with concern, watching Wei Suo's flying up, paying attention to the appearance of the extinct vine around her. She knew that Wei Suo must have seen what has changed before and after seeing this extinct vine. There is no obvious difference yet. Wei Suo looked at her and answered, then looked down at the 3 unknown green spars carefully. From the present, it seems that the brilliance emitted from the green spar has not changed in any way, and there should not be any situation where the strange power can be reduced. If you come back tomorrow, you should know if it's useful. I used to breed these monster vines with monsters and beasts. It will take a night before I can see the obvious changes, Wei Suo said to Jia again. After this sentence, carefully buried 3 green spars with mud. After all, these 3 unknown green spars are also rare treasures, and it is also a huge loss in case of loss. Then, Wei Suo put away the corpses of the shattered monsters, and then inspired the Green Emperor Gourd, and then motioned everyone to enter the aura inspired by the Green Emperor Gourd. Then we saw Wei Suo wrapped in a small blue flag in his hands and waved hard again. The Yuki Genkai on the ground immediately stopped, and the Yuki Genkai, which originally permeated the forest, slowly dissipated with the flow of the mountain breeze. Go. After glancing at Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun, who were obviously relieved, Wei Suo returned to the cave with a few people. The 2 of you now have something on hand, take it out and show it to me. After returning to the Dong mansion, Wei Suo entered the residence of Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun and sat in the hall of the residence down, something like interrogating 2 people. We still have about 80,000 spirit stones, and these magic weapons. When Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun heard Wei Suo say this, they didn't have any superfluous thoughts. They pulled out all the 7 or 8 nabeos on their hands and handed them to Wei Suo. It's just these things. After Wei Suo took out all the contents of the 7 or 8 nabeo, Han Wei looked up very excitedly, but soon she shook her head. In addition to the 2 ordinary spirit-level attack magic weapons, the things on the 2 people basically have no spirit-level magic weapons. There are a lot of miscellaneous medicines and fusee, but almost nothing of high quality. But this is also with Wei Suo, because there are so many good things in Wei Suo. To know that even in the Tianqian continent, which has more magic weapons than the Yunling continent, general monks who divide the realm may not have won a true magic-level magic weapon. In the past, if Han Wei was able to get a magic-level magic weapon, he would be very happy. Apart from these things, are there really nothing else on you? After seeing these things, Wei Suo looked at them dumbly and asked again. It's really nothing. How could we deceive the boss? Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun both snapped their chests immediately. You can doubt our IQ, but you can't doubt what we said. Since you call me boss and say you want to follow me, then from today, I promise you not to tell you at most, but I will definitely deceive you. But from today, no matter what I let you do, you all have to listen to me. You must not have the slightest disagreement with me. You must not talk to me about conditions like today. Can you do it? Wei Suo looked at them and asked extremely seriously. Actually, at that time, we just said that if the boss is really unwilling, we certainly don't dare to be rude with the boss. Don't talk nonsense, Wei Suo interrupted Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun in a polite manner, and said coldly, now you just tell me if you can't do it. It can be done. After Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun glanced at each other, they both nodded and said. Then you all make a big oath. If you disobey the statement, you will not be able to break through to Jin Dan Ziawei for life, and if you disobey the statement and you are killed by that time, don't blame me. Wei Suo nodded and said. Okay. After Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun glanced at each other again, they all took the oath according to what Wei Suo said. These magic weapons are much better than the ones you have on hand, so I will use them for you. Wei Suo nodded after seeing the two swear, and reached out and took out 4 magic weapons from the Nebeo capsule. It is 2 pieces of attacking magic weapon of the upper rank and 2 pieces of defending magic weapon of the upper rank. If any chapter content is not displayed, please visit to read. Tip: you can search for 0.academy00sy or 00sy in Baidu to visit this site. The site address is. To facilitate reading this book next time, you can click add bookmark below to record this reading record, and you can directly read this chapter next time you open the bookshelf. Please recommend this book to your friends, QQ, blog, WeChat, etc. Remember that the more updates you share, the faster. Mobile phone users, please visit. Path to Heaven. Author, Wu Ziwei. Chapter 415. These 4 magic weapons were obtained by Wei Zhuo at the Sea Hunting Conference, which was originally intended to be reserved for these 2 guys. Many loose repairs, after a certain amount of cultivation, will enroll a lot of disciples since the construction of the Dong Mansion. Metropolis literature. These disciples are not only a help against the enemy, they can also do a lot of things. Refining the magic weapon, searching for things, collecting news, these general monks, all rely on the disciples to do. In Haixianzong, Wei Suo fully enjoyed the benefits of being a real elder. Returning to Tianqian continent now, of course, Wei Suo can't be alone, and of course he needs some help under his hands. The 2 people, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun, were silly to talk to him about the conditions to make up for Tiandan, but Wei Suo already knew these 2 guys very well, and he was very clear, even if he didn't show up. Cultivate as, if you don't promise these 2 guys, they can't really do anything. The most important point is that the brains of these 2 people are really very simple, go straight, and it is much safer to take such 2 people around, than to take others. If it is a monk who accepts another, it looks loyal on the surface, who knows what will be in the bottom of my heart, and what will happen to the nature of the mind. When I was with these 2 guys before, let these 2 guys do something dangerous, and these 2 guys have no excuses. Now that he has decided to accept these 2 guys, the strength of these 2 guys is of course the higher the better. He wouldn't be stingy with bullet and Tiandan, magic weapons that are not available on hand, etc. At present, Wei Suo has 3 golden magic weapons with the power to reach the top grade, as well as the flying sword on the door, the blood knife, the extinct Jindan, etc. Basically, he and Jia and Han Wei are enough. In Wei Suo's view, this magic weapon of the top grade is really nothing. However, this kind of magic weapon is great for monks like Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun. After all, when Wei Suo leaves the Tianqian continent, if there is a real spirit level, even if it is a magic weapon of the lower rank, he will be ecstatic himself. The baby is terrible. Boss, this is the magic weapon of the top grade spirit order. Just seeing the flashing aura on the 4 magic weapons, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun made a sound like they were pinched by their throats. The magic weapon of the top grade spirit, boss, do you really give it to us? And it is still 2 for 1 person. Boss, follow you with the magic weapon of the top grade spirit level, follow you really follow. For a time, Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun were both bosses. You will let us do whatever we want in the future, go in the water, go in the fire. Follow me, it's good, there won't be less of you two and these two guys, there is nothing to turn around. After looking at the two, Wei Suo said quietly, but neither of you what you do, but you have to remember the oath you just made, otherwise if you do something that is not good for me, I will deal with you, and I will not be soft-hearted at that time. Brother, you can rest assured. How could we do something against you? Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun both happily received the magic weapon and patted their loudly. The two of you usually practice in front of this residence. We will practice in the back of this residence. If I have something to find you, I will naturally come out. No matter what, you should not enter the back. Wei Suo Shen. I shot a little bit towards the back of this courtyard, which I entered back and forth, said. Okay, we promise that we won't bother the boss. In the past, Wei Suo's harsh tone made Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun dare not have any joke, and both nodded nervously. From tomorrow, I will let you start to make up Tiandan again, but I still have some materials to prepare. This Danfang, still can't let you know. Wei Suo looked at the two people and continued, you also know that this elixirs and remedies will cause unimaginable serious consequences when they are known by other monks. With your cultivating practices, knowing this remedies is not safe at all, even if you don't want to say, maybe there are monks, and there are tricks to dig out what you want from your head. From tomorrow on, even if there is a supplementary pill, you can't bring it on your body, you can't bring one out of this cave house. If you want to swallow cultivation, you can only swallow cultivation in this cave house. Okay. Everything is better to listen to the boss is back, everything is up to you, we are too lazy to use our brains anyway. The words by Zhen Chongming and Zhu Xiaochun almost gave Han Weiwei the urge to bump his head against the wall next to it. What is the situation of Lingyu City, Kixing City, and Luyu City now? You and me. Hearing these two guys saying this, Wei Suo also shook his head helplessly and said something like this. It's the same as before, it doesn't make any difference. It's just that all the people in the Jumbo Pavilion have been replaced. Zhu Xiaochun and Zhen Chongming have nothing to say. Is there any news from the Ye family's siblings and Nangong Yuking? Wei Suo glanced at them and then asked. No, we are practicing here most of the time and don't go out too much. Zhu Xiaochun shook his head and said, I thought they were with you, or they were all killed by Dongjao people. Then how do you know that Dongjao Resort will deal with us? Han Weiwei glanced at them. At the time when Wei Suo held Dongqing II, Dongyao's resort would definitely not spread out. Zhen Chongming took it for granted and thought, you and the boss have always hated Dongqing II, do you object to Jiya marrying Dongqing II? Jiya marries Dongqing II, you must be against Dongjao Resort. Yeah, let's talk about some rumors that Jiya was forced to marry Dongqing II. Of course, we think you are trying to deal with Dongjao Resort, but it was killed by Dongjao Resort. Anyway, we know that the boss is for you. The brain is dizzy and dangerous things will be done. Han Weiwei rolled his eyes, how could these two guys' heads be so useful at this time? When she heard Zhen Chongming saying that Wei Suo would make her brain dizzy, she would do something very dangerous, but her ears could not help but slightly reddish, and she couldn't tell what was going on in her heart. Emotions. You are familiar with the magic weapon I just gave you, and then practice here yourself. Wei Suo stood up without saying much, waved his hand, and left all the treasures of Zhen Chongming and others back to the two. And then walked out of this hall with Jiya and Han Weiwei. Weizhuo, what are we going to do next? As soon as he walked out of the hall, Han Weiwei turned to look at Weizhuo and asked. Because of that inexplicable emotion, her voice did not consciously soften much, making this sentence very ambiguous. I will continue to sacrifice Heiming Gujun. It is estimated that there will be another 20 or 30 days, and my Heiming Gujun will be refined. However, Wei Suo, who was thinking carefully in his mind, had no extra thoughts at this time, frowning slightly and said one by one, this cave house, it is necessary to grow the extinct vines behind to be safe enough, which also costs some time. So according to my thoughts, if you are not in a hurry, you will continue to practice and improve your practice, and then refining and replenishing the Tian Tian pill to improve your practice level. I will take this time to see if I can use it on hand. Xuanhuan Silver WA and Silver Scale Beast, refine some powerful magic weapons, or go to explore the two places he said. How to do it, I carefully discussed with the old man in green robe. Tomorrow I will go to Lingyu City, Kixing City, and Luyu City to prepare some materials first and listen to the news. In this case, I'll go to practice first. If there's anything else, please contact me. When Wei Suo said this, Han Wei immediately nodded, and took out an item from his nabao and handed it to him. Jia, sister, this is for you. The crystal pith. Wei Suo and Jia were stunned at the sight of Han Wei. She took it out, it was a silver crystal. I used one when I was practicing at Luo Island, and this one was left. Wei Suo, I gave my sister. Do you have no opinion? Looking at Wei Suo and Jia froze. Han Wei said such a sentence. You only used one? Wei, this crystal pith is extremely useful to you, you can refine it yourself. Jia waved her hand, and she would refuse immediately. But Han Wei couldn't help but put it in her hand. Now we are all divided into different situations, I will improve a little, and it is not as good as sister. You can raise some cultivations to be useful, if you can quickly break through to Jindan cultivation. If the two Jindan monks are together, they don't have to be afraid to act. Also, after Han Wei said that, he looked at Jiya's eyes seriously and said, Sister, you used to be always looking at me when you were in the Jumbo Pavilion. You have to think about everything for me now. Want me to take care of you? Wei. Hearing her saying, a hazy mist suddenly appeared in Jiya's eyes. Her appearance is an iceberg beauty, and the treasurer of the treasure pavilion is very strong, but Wei Suo is very clear that Jiya is actually outer and inner, and her heart is very weak. Okay sister, do you want us to practice together? Ignore this guy first. Han Wei held Jiya's hand. You still follow me to practice in front, I can protect you. By the way, it is safer. Jiya, you can stop the three-color flying silkworm near the exit here. If something happens, we can also be very good. Come back soon. When Han Wei and Jia talked, Wei Suo didn't speak. Until then, he nodded and said such a sentence. The reason for this is that when facing Han Wei's eyes sometimes, he is always unconsciously careful. Because he was in Lingyu City in the past, most of the time when he was drooling, he was the target of the road. Of course, most of the time he was the former target Shui Linger, but after encountering this buttocks beauty, there are several times this buttocks little girl actually replaced Shui Linger. Of course, Nangang Yuking, there are so many times. But now that he and Jia are already like this, when thinking about these, Wei Suo still can't help feeling a little guilty. It seems that he really married the sister and coveted the little aunt. Is it true that I already wanted her to be a pair of monks and wives? This thought that suddenly appeared in Wei Suo's heart surprised him all.